In the world of wrestling, where intense matches and fiery rivalries usually steal the spotlight, there's always been a peculiar side that fans can't forget. Gimmicks so ridiculous they're almost unbelievable. These were oddball characters, absurd, over the top, seemingly created just for laughs, yet somehow, they won over the audience. Even without a long list of titles or major accomplishments, they left their mark through humor, creativity, and sheer commitment. They remind us that wrestling isn't only about winning or losing, it's also about those unexpected moments of entertainment that make fans laugh, cheer, and keep watching. So, let's revisit some of the most memorably silly gimmicks ever. Goldust, the eccentric icon who left fans confused but captivated. When Goldust first walked onto the stage in the mid-90s, the wrestling world froze in disbelief. Dressed head to toe in shimmering gold, face painted white, and moving with unsettling gestures, Goldust looked like no one fans had ever seen before. He whispered in opponents' ears, caressed the ring ropes, and pulled off antics that left rivals completely unnerved. It was one of the strangest gimmicks WWE had ever introduced, but it became unforgettable. At first glance, Goldust seemed like WWE's bizarre attempt at shock value. But beneath the glitter and theatrics was a smart strategy. The character was designed to provoke and challenge the rigid masculine stereotypes dominating wrestling at the time. Dustin Rhodes, the man behind Goldust, fully committed to the role, leaving fans unsure whether to laugh, feel disturbed, or actually cheer. He didn't just create drama. He commanded attention every time he entered the ring. Many thought the act wouldn't last. It was too outrageous. But the more fans watched, the clearer it became. Behind the eccentric facade was a masterful wrestler. Goldust could tell a story with every move and facial expression, turning matches into bizarre pieces of performance art. That perfect blend of technical skill and offbeat personality kept him relevant for years, even leading to multiple comebacks across different eras. Though the gimmick sparked plenty of controversy, Goldust became one of the most iconic characters of the 90s. He proved that sometimes popularity doesn't come from fitting in, but from daring to be different and committing to it completely. Doink the Clown, WWE's two-faced trickster. When it comes to oddball gimmicks, Doink the Clown can't be overlooked. Debuting in the early 90s with a brightly painted face, frizzy green and red hair, and a twisted grin, Doink looked like harmless comic relief. But fans were stunned when he revealed his darker side, a ruthless heel hidden behind the clown makeup. He didn't just clown around. He fought dirty, played cruel tricks, and blindsided opponents when they least expected it. The contrast between his cheerful appearance and vicious behavior made Doink stand out. Every time his entrance music hit, the crowd felt both excited and uneasy, never knowing if they'd get silly pranks or pure chaos. Though WWE later softened him into more of a comedy act, fans still remember his original evil clown persona the most. He even pulled off wild stunts like creating fake duplicates of himself, leading to some of the most entertaining moments of the era. Looking back, the idea of a wrestling clown sounds ridiculous. Yet that very absurdity is what gave Doink staying power. He showed that even a seemingly foolish gimmick can succeed when performed with total dedication and creativity, and Doink nailed it perfectly. Papa Shango, the dark sorcerer who haunted WWE. In 1992, WWF, the predecessor of WWE, introduced one of the strangest characters ever to step into the ring, Papa Shango. Portrayed as a mysterious voodoo priest from an unknown land, he appeared with a black and white painted face, a tall top hat, dark ceremonial robes, and a smoking skull staff. From the very first appearance, he left kids both fascinated and terrified, while adults weren't sure whether to laugh or be unsettled. Papa Shango's gimmick revolved around dark magic, claiming he could curse anyone who dared to challenge him. Backstage segments showed him setting opponents' hats on fire, causing sudden seizures, cold sweats, or even vomiting thick black sludge right in the ring. These moments looked like scenes ripped from a cheesy horror movie, and, of course, weren't convincing at all. Many adults thought the act was way over the top, silly enough to break the illusion of professional competition. And yet, Papa Shango stuck in the minds of countless fans. For kids in the early 90s especially, the idea of a sinister sorcerer who could curse anyone was terrifying but irresistible. They didn't care about fake magic tricks or clumsy stage effects. All they saw was a supernatural figure unlike anyone else. Today, Papa Shango is remembered as a symbol of WWF's colorful, over-the-top era. His run didn't last long, But the character lives on as proof that sometimes, even the most absurd ideas can become legendary if they spark the audience's imagination. Repo Man, the bizarre collector who refused to be forgotten. In 1991, WWF fans witnessed a complete transformation from Barry Darsow, formerly Smash of the dominant tag team Demolition. Once a powerhouse brawler, he suddenly became Repo Man, a strange character whose job was to repossess property from people who couldn't pay their debts. His look barely resembled a wrestler, half-face black mask, a skin-tight outfit decorated with tire tracks, and a tow rope slung over his shoulder like he had just stepped out of a Saturday morning cartoon. On paper, the gimmicks sounded quirky, but in the ring it never felt threatening. Repossessing things was too silly a concept to build real tension, especially in a world filled with larger-than-life heroes and villains. Instead of striking fear, Repo Man confused audiences and often made them laugh. Compared to the glory Barry had enjoyed in Demolition, once one of WWE's most dominant teams, this was clearly a step backward. Still, it was that very ridiculousness that made Repo Man memorable. To many kids back then, he wasn't funny at all. He was actually scary. Repo Man felt like a sneaky thief who could creep into your driveway at night and quietly tow your family's car away. His shifty eyes behind the mask, sneaky movements, and ever-present sinister grin made him look like a comic book villain come to life. Looking back, Repo Man is remembered with a mix of amusement and nostalgia. His gimmick was far from impressive, but he proved that sometimes sheer weirdness and absurdity can carve out their own place in wrestling history, if you're eccentric enough to make it unforgettable. Atom Bomb, the wasted potential of a nuclear monster. In 1993, WWF unveiled what looked like a character destined to shake up the company, Atom Bomb. Behind the role was Brian Clark, a wrestler with a chiseled physique, immense power, and a naturally intimidating presence. According to the storyline, Atom Bomb was the sole survivor of the 3 Mile Island nuclear disaster, having absorbed massive radiation that turned him into a nuclear monster with unstoppable strength. His entrances were filled with smoke, glowing contact lenses that gave him a radioactive stare, and constant hype from his manager Johnny Polo, who billed him as an uncontrollable force. At first, everything seemed set for a breakout star. Atom Bomb had the size, the look, and a unique gimmick unlike anything else in wrestling at the time. But WWF failed to capitalize on it. Instead of being booked as a dominant monster, he was stuck in meaningless mid-card matches, with no strong storylines or rivalries against top stars. The radioactive angle was barely used and quickly faded, leaving Atom Bomb as a flashy concept with no real payoff. Still, for a section of fans, Atom Bomb left a lasting impression. They didn't remember him for championship victories, but for his sheer intensity and imposing presence every time he stepped into the ring. There was something about Atom Bomb that felt wasted, a potential star who never got his chance. And that's why his name endures, as a reminder of an untapped powerhouse, a half-finished legend who remains etched in fans' memories. Brutus Beefcake, the outlandish barber who made the crowd go wild. Brutus Beefcake entered WWE lore in a way no one saw coming. At WrestleMania 3, after Roddy Piper defeated Adrian Adonis in a famous hair versus hair match, Beefcake unexpectedly showed up to help Piper finish the stipulation. In front of tens of thousands of fans, he casually chopped off Adonis's hair right in the middle of the ring, creating one of the most shocking moments of that era. From that night on, Beefcake's career took an unexpected turn. He became a full-fledged barber inside the squared circle. From then on, every appearance saw him carrying oversized scissors and a giant comb, as if he had just walked out of some bizarre salon. On paper, the idea of a wrestler basing his gimmick on cutting hair sounded ridiculous. Even by 1980 standards, it was one of the most absurd characters ever conceived. But surprisingly, the fans loved it. Every time his entrance music hit, crowds jumped to their feet, and when he raised those massive scissors high above his head, the arenas erupted in cheers. Beefcake even hosted his own talk show segment, The Barbershop, where he interviewed fellow wrestlers in a barbershop-themed set. That show gave fans countless memorable moments, further cementing him as one of the era's most entertaining personalities. While many dismissed the barber gimmick as silly, there's no denying that Ed Leslie, who brought Brutus Beefcake to life, threw himself completely into the role. He didn't just play the character, he lived it. That dedication and willingness to fully commit made him a fan favorite, turning Brutus, the Barber Beefcake, into an unforgettable part of WWE's golden age. The Boogeyman, a living nightmare in the ruthless aggression era. In 2005, during a time when WWE was filled with gritty, reality-based characters, a bizarre creature crawled out of the shadows and left the entire arena stunned, the Boogeyman. Unlike anyone else, he emerged through clouds of red smoke, face painted in eerie black and crimson, clutching an old clock that he would smash over his own head as if pain meant nothing. As his creepy entrance theme echoed, Boogeyman crawled on the floor, muttering twisted nursery rhymes, his wide eyes glaring into the souls of his opponents. Then came the ultimate shock. He would chew on live worms in front of a horrified audience. By any standard, this was an off-putting gimmick, one that hardly fit WWE's environment at the time. His in-ring skills weren't standout either. Most of his matches were short, built more on atmosphere than athletic display. Yet paradoxically, that over-the-top weirdness made him impossible to ignore. The Boogeyman didn't need intricate moves. His very presence turned the arena into a nightmare come alive. In the ruthless aggression era, known for its realism and intensity, he stood out as something completely different. He proved that no matter how bizarre a character might be, full commitment could still capture the fans' imagination. Every gesture, every stare radiated controlled madness, making each appearance feel like a live horror show. Of course, not everyone appreciated it. Jillian Hall, for instance, certainly didn't after he shoved worms into her mouth. But for many fans, the Boogeyman remains one of WWE's most unforgettable, silly but legendary gimmicks, a nightmare they couldn't stop watching. Adam Rose, the party host who brought the celebration to the ring. Amid an era filled with hard-edged, intense personas, Adam Rose arrived like a blast of color and chaos. Instead of menacing glares or aggressive poses, he came smiling, arms wide open as if embracing the whole arena, surrounded by his rosebuds. A parade of costumed dancers that included everything from giant bunnies to toy soldiers to glittery showgirls. Every entrance turned the ring into a full-on party, complete with pulsing music, flashing lights, and carnival-like energy. Rather than threatening opponents, Rose laughed, danced, and rallied the crowd with his quirky catchphrase, "Don't be a lemon, be a rosebud." It sounded goofy, but it always made fans laugh. His antics, running around the ring with his entourage and partying with the audience, spread a contagious energy that was hard to resist. Rose was a reminder that not every WWE character had to be violent or serious. Sometimes, bringing joy and excitement was enough. The problem was, the gimmick relied almost entirely on its flashy presentation. Once the novelty wore off, WWE quickly scaled back his role. He never got big title opportunities, and his matches rarely stood out for their in-ring quality. Still, for the brief time he was on the main roster, Adam Rose made his mark. Fans didn't remember him for championships, but for the sheer fun he brought every time the music hit, the rosebuds swarmed out, and the party took over the arena. Though his WWE career was short-lived, Adam Rose proved that even a silly gimmick can work if delivered with total enthusiasm. Sometimes, making people smile is all it takes. Eugene, the underdog who won fans' hearts. In a world of wrestlers built on power, arrogance, and cunning, Eugene's arrival felt like something completely different. Introduced as the nephew of then-Raw general manager Eric Bischoff, Eugene stepped into WWE with the innocence of a child, portrayed as someone with developmental disabilities. At first, many thought the character was nothing more than a cruel joke. But as time went on, fans began to see past the clumsy antics and discovered a soul with a deep, almost overwhelming love for wrestling. Unlike the muscle-bound titans and proud egos around him, Eugene entered the ring with a genuine smile, a childlike excitement, and boundless energy. What seemed like silly comedy quickly became his charm, helping him win over the audience. Even though he was constantly mocked, bullied, and taken advantage of by his Uncle Eric and others, Eugene never quit. Every time he was knocked down, he got back up, fighting with everything he had. That resilience turned him into a true symbol of perseverance, a supposed weakling who refused to give up. The crowd didn't just cheer for his moves, they cheered for his dream, to share the same stage as his childhood heroes. Whenever Eugene suddenly mimicked the signature moves of legends like Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, or The Rock, arenas erupted. Those moments revealed the truth. Beneath the goofy exterior was a man so passionate about wrestling that his love for the sport became his greatest weapon. Eugene didn't need championships to be a hero. Through sincerity and determination, he proved that even in WWE's unforgiving world, there was still room for innocence, heart, and dreams that seemed impossible. Rick Martel, the arrogant model who stole the spotlight. Before adopting the flamboyant role that defined his career, Rick Martel was respected as a skilled tag team wrestler known for his technical ability and professionalism. But the turning point came when he reinvented himself as a narcissistic villain under the moniker The Model. Gone was the humble, hard-working competitor. Now Martel strutted out as a conceited show-off who believed he was the very definition of beauty and perfection. Every entrance was a display of vanity, stylish outfits, expensive suits, dark sunglasses, and a smug sign reading, "Yes, I am a model." His trademark accessory was the Arrogance Perfume Atomizer, a prop that doubled as a weapon when he sprayed it directly into an opponent's eyes. To many, the act seemed ridiculous, almost like parody. But Martel's total commitment to the role convinced fans he was indeed the self-absorbed model of wrestling. What made the gimmick truly work wasn't just the over-the-top arrogance, but Martel's skill in the ring. Even while playing a laughable egomaniac, he delivered exciting, high-quality matches. The infamous storyline where he blinded Jake the Snake Roberts with arrogance may have sounded absurd, but it built to one of the most memorable bouts in WrestleMania history, the blindfold match at WrestleMania 7. For wrestling fans of the early 90s, Rick Martel wasn't just a funny heel. He proved that even a seemingly silly character could become legendary when performed with enough charisma and talent. Nailz, the escaped convict who haunted WWE. When WWE introduced Nailz in the early 1990s, audiences were unsettled from the start. He appeared as if he had walked straight out of a nightmare, an escaped prisoner still in a tattered orange jumpsuit, with a cold glare, raspy voice, and a menacing silence that made him all the more intimidating. Nailz was never meant to be lovable or humorous. His very presence was designed to make people uneasy. From his debut, he unleashed chaos by viciously attacking the Big Boss Man, portrayed as his former prison guard, in a brutal act of revenge. The sight of Nailz pummeling Boss Man with a nightstick until he lay unconscious shocked viewers. His movements were slow and deliberate, his face locked in permanent rage, radiating a raw violence that made every match feel more like a beating than a contest. The strange thing is, while the gimmick was over the top, an escaped convict fighting on national television, fans couldn't look away. Nailz became a short-lived sensation, needing only a murderous stare and a few savage strikes to whip the crowd into a frenzy. His aura brought a dark, grim tone to WWE at a time when colorful characters usually dominated. Though his WWE career ended quickly and controversially, Nailz left a strong impression. He proved that a gimmick didn't need complexity or flashy promos to stick with fans. Sometimes, just the terrifying image of a crazed fugitive was enough to etch a character into wrestling history as one of the most chilling figures of his era. Erwin R. Shyster, the hated taxman everyone remembers. In 1991, WWE introduced one of its strangest ideas yet, turning a wrestler into a tax collector. Erwin R. Shyster, better known as IRS, walked to the ring in a white dress shirt, slacks, suspenders, a red tie, and a briefcase always in hand. There was nothing flashy about him, no superstar aura. He looked like he had just stepped out of an accounting office. Once in the ring, IRS would berate his opponents and the crowd alike, calling them tax cheats and lecturing them on civic duty before ruthlessly putting anyone down who dared challenge him. It was precisely IRS's plain appearance that made him stand out. In a world filled with muscle-bound warriors, monstrous giants, and colorful superheroes, IRS felt uncomfortably real, like someone you might actually know and dislike in everyday life. That made him the perfect heel. The moment he appeared, boos rained down without pause. Pairing him with the arrogant million-dollar man, Ted DiBiase, was pure genius. A smug millionaire teamed up with a corrupt taxman, the ultimate duo of schemers. Even while wrestling in a tight shirt and restrictive tie, Mike Rotunda fully committed to the role. He carried himself with icy arrogance and rigid authority, selling the character so convincingly that fans could almost believe he really was a tax auditor who happened to wrestle on the side. That seriousness is what kept IRS from becoming a total joke. As absurd as the gimmick was, fans still remember him fondly today, as one of the standout examples from WWE's era of bizarre occupation characters that somehow worked. Santino Marella, the clumsy comic who made magic. When Santino Marella debuted in 2007, few expected the awkward Italian with the exaggerated accent to last long. He stumbled, rambled, and constantly embarrassed himself with over-the-top pratfalls and cartoonish antics. But that very goofiness set him apart. Every time he appeared, he brought levity to otherwise intense shows. What Santino lacked in technical skill, he made up for in comedic timing and charisma. His ridiculous Cobra finisher, where he turned his hand into a snake to strike his opponent, had crowds roaring with laughter every time he pulled it off. Though often treated as a running gag, Santino shocked fans by nearly winning both the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber, creating some of the loudest crowd reactions of his career. For a moment, fans truly believed they were watching a fairy tale underdog story. Santino proved that a wrestler doesn't always need to be serious to be beloved. Sometimes, making people laugh is enough. His gimmick was silly, even absurd, but his charm, commitment, and infectious energy turned him into one of WWE's most unforgettable comedy acts. Big Dick Johnson, the greasy dancer who shocked the crowd. Big Dick Johnson is without a doubt one of the silliest gimmicks WWE has ever produced, yet he's also one fans will never forget. Debuting in the mid-2000s, Johnson would storm the stage in nothing but tiny briefs, his body glistening with oil, gyrating around like an over-the-top strip dancer. Nobody expected a character like this to exist in a company the size of WWE, but that sheer absurdity is exactly what made him stand out. The funny thing is, Big Dick Johnson wasn't even a trained wrestler. He was actually a backstage employee that Vince McMahon threw onto TV to deliver ridiculous, sometimes over-the-line comedy skits. Every time he appeared, the crowd was caught somewhere between shock and laughter, while the wrestlers in the ring had no choice but to suffer through his outrageous antics. Although he never wrestled, Johnson became a strangely memorable part of WWE's sports entertainment era. Fans might call the gimmick cheap, but they can't deny it gave us moments that were equal parts cringeworthy and unforgettable. Mention his name, and people instantly picture the oversized man confidently flaunting himself and committing fully to the bizarre role. This character proved that in wrestling, success isn't always about flashy moves or championship gold. Sometimes it's about creating laughter and unforgettable reactions. Big Dick Johnson remains the perfect example of a gimmick that seemed pointless on paper, but stayed burned into fans' memories. Whether strange or downright absurd, these gimmicks gave us some of the most unforgettable moments in wrestling history. If you enjoyed them too, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next exciting stories.